welcome to my video response to Prepsteaders video on what to do when the toilet paper runs out. And first let me say, I was really impressed with her channel. She does a really good job of researching and explaining the issues that she does videos about. And I can tell by the information she's putting out that she's done her homework, and fact-based videos are way more important than opinion-based because people's lives may depend on it. And you need to get some of this stuff. You need to have it down, or it's going to be big problems. As she described when she was talking about the buckets with the liner and putting materials in it, but don't fill it more than halfway full because you will regret it. She's giving you real information there, and I will go into those issues in this video. Really liked what she had to say about the toilet paper and the alternative, the little Wheezy or whatever it was called. It is a clever idea, and I thought it was really responsible of her to not only have it, but to open it up and show you and compare it to toilet paper rolls and so on. She did a really good job there. And my video is to go the next step beyond what she said. And I realize I may be drawing conclusions here, but it seemed to me she was living somewhere in suburbia. And that's why I like her even more, because she is stepping outside of her normal life to do these kind of videos and research the kind of information she's putting out. As you guys know, on my channel, we are living the off-grid life, and so we have experience in the what's next of some of the issues surrounding, you know, a catastrophic event, an EMP kind of thing. And I like to bring all this information and stuff back to emergencies happen without the end of the world coming. And so it's always good to be ready for emergencies as well. And in this case, any of the hurricanes, Katrina, etc., could bring about, you know, your toilet system not working the way you're used to it, or toilet paper supplies being, now it will work without electricity. But the water purification system that your city has may not be functioning the way it normally would. And most of you who live in the city, your waste is going to a waste treatment plant that's being treated with chemicals and everything, and then once the water is deemed safe, it's returned into the supply in some way. So what you want to do, should your toilet stop working, should your area suffer an emergency, you can have stored nearby water, and it takes about 5 gallons, 3 to 5 gallons, to make a modern toilet flush. And so if you pour that into the tank at the back of your toilet, not the front where you use it, but at the back, then your toilet will flush. You'll pull the handle and it will go down into the pipes. I would continue doing that until you notice whatever you try to flush didn't make it, you know, for whatever reason, maybe the pipes aren't working, then you're going to need to stop. And so then you're going to want to get into the kind of system that the Prepsteader lady talked about. And I just want to go into the bucket situation. She is giving you, again, good information, but I don't think that she's utilized that system yet, because you run into a huge problem once you've used the bucket, and now you have this heavy-duty black plastic bag full of human waste and some sort of carbon material. Like she said, I like the idea of ashes. Ashes was a great idea, but I don't know where you in suburbia would be getting ashes, wood ashes, unless you had a wood stove or a fireplace, and a lot of you have electric ones. So dirt is a fine idea. Sawdust is a great idea. Again, where would you in suburbia get sawdust? Unless you have a chainsaw and are, you know, cutting wood in your backyard, you may not be able to get that. Another thing you could use is leaves. I know suburbia has trees and people rake their leaves up. You might want to start thinking about, instead of putting that bag out on the curb to be gathered and taken somewhere, starting your own compost pile, leaf pile, in your backyard for just this kind of situation. So where we need to take that whole scenario one step further is, now that you have these bags, what are you going to do with them? Because make no mistake, not only does human waste smell bad, it can be quite dangerous for your health. There is a huge risk of cholera which is your waste polluting a water system, or you in handling it, getting it on your hands, and then it entering your body and making you very ill. And so we need to talk about that. Pastor Joe has told me that people who live in their cars and vans have little, toilet systems that they use, and they have bags as well. And some of the people doing that are throwing those bags in a dumpster. Terrible. This is a terrible hygienic thing to do. Dumpsters are not prepared to accept human waste. Human waste has to be, handled very carefully, very, very specifically. And in a hospital situation, I'm pretty sure they consider that a biohazard because it can make you ill. So this is not, you cannot then take that bag out of that bucket and just put it in your backyard. You are going to have a horrible cesspool back there that will be a danger to you and people around you. So what are you going to do? I don't recommend using the bag. I recommend just using the bucket without the bag, knowing that that bucket will be used for nothing else except the waste product. And right now, Pastor Joe and I use peat moss as our waste product, but look around. We can eventually go to something else if we need to. We can use sawdust, or we can use leaves and ashes, because we do have wood fires out here. The thing about peat moss right now is you can buy it and store it right now. You can go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Menards or whatever outdoor stores are near you and buy yourself several containers of it, and you can store it. I wouldn't store it in the plastic wrapper that it comes in, because that shreds pretty easily. It's seen a lot of use, and the compost is heavy, so it's not gonna last. But you can get yourself something like metal barrels or big plastic trash cans and split it and put it in there now to have for the emergency. And the good thing about peat moss is it is antibacterial, it holds moisture, and it also absorbs smell. I'm not saying the other things can't be used. I'm saying right now the optimal thing is this peat moss. And so what we do, and we have videos up about this, is you put the peat moss in the bottom of the bucket, you use the bucket. Every time you use the bucket, you put peat moss on top, or dirt or sawdust or leaves. And then when the bucket is full enough, I mean, if you're strong, you can fill it all the way up. If you're, you got to limit how much you pick up like I do, then you may only fill it halfway up. And then you dump it. But where do you dump it? Well, we've done videos, and other people have done videos. We have humanure composting bins. When you watch the videos online, or if you read the book, they recommend that this compost be composted for a year. And then the dirt that's in there can be used in your orchard, your flower beds, not so much things that you're going to have root crops in, but it is a richer dirt, a soil. And so if you look back here, what's growing here right now is lamb's quarter. We do have people in our congregation whose parents come from South Korea, and South Korea uses humanure regularly on their farm fields. And I'm not saying it's without consequence, but I think they've kind of tweaked it enough so they know. And this particular Shofarian's mother said, no, you can compost it 3 to 4 months and then start using it in your garden beds. I think that's probably true, and I think even when you did that, you would want to be careful when you're moving the dirt to wherever you take it. You'd probably at least want to wear gloves. And I have some alternatives to the toilet paper that I gathered, because yes, you can use Wheezies if you want. You can store toilet paper if you want, but the Prepsteader lady is right in that toilet paper is very fragile anyway, and so it may not last. If it ever got wet, it's going to just ruin it. Mice will dig into it. They love to use it as their nesting material. So if you're going to try to store toilet paper, you need to make sure it's really secure. But you will eventually run out depending on what happens. So I've got some alternatives here, and you may question, Sister Kate, how do you know this? Well, you can sort of imagine how I know this. Leaves are actually a decent toilet paper alternative. And these are sycamore leaves, which tend to be huge, so you can imagine using these. And the green leaves are going to be better than dry, but dry work too. Get a whole bunch of these and do your wiping. Another alternative that the Native Americans used is mullein. And I've got a little video clip that I'll stick in here that shows the actual plant. But you can see this leaf is huge and it's also very soft. This bit is about the mullein. So I wanted to show you this plant. This is my demonstration of it. Here's the leaf. It's really soft and fluffy. And here's the stalk and the plant when it's like 2 years old versus 1 year old. And so you don't have so much the fluffy leaves. They might be there earlier, like this is late summer into fall. And so this is going to seed. These stalks are really good for building, when you do fire by hand, when you do like the wood base and then a spindle and you rub it with your hands, that's what those stalks are really good for. Back to the video. And these mullein leaves were used for diaper material and for bandaging material as well. And so that is a wild alternative that would work decently. And then the other one is that curly dock, which is also another wild edible. And someone said, wow, that leaf is huge in my other video. No, these can be 3 times this big if they're planted in a soil that's very rich. So you can again imagine that that would make a decent toilet paper. These leaves can be fragile, so you're not just going to want to use 1 leaf at a time. You're going to want to use like several, a handful, and wipe until, of course, you cannot see anything on your leaf. But that's not going to mean that you are 100% clean. After you've done that, you are going to want to wash with soap and water. You absolutely are. So another thing for you to know or store is soap. And I've got a liquid soap here that someone gifted us. Bronner's Hemp Castile soap. I'm assuming it's sort of an old version of soap, but it's liquid. And then we get gifted, and I have made, and my daughter-in-law makes soap. And this is a process you're going to want to look into. It's called saponification, and you really just need ashes. A quick aside on making soap, saponification, you need 3 ingredients. I said 2, that's not right. You need lye, which comes from ashes. You drain water through the ash, and then the lye runs out of that. You need fat. You need some kind of fat. And it used to be often animal fat was used. But nowadays people use lots of other things. They'll use olive oil or palm oil or coconut oil or whatever. But the fat with the lye and the water that you boil together makes the soap. And there are many, many, many recipes online. Just put it into the Google and then try some. Good luck with that. And there are more than one kind of soap making recipe. Some of it is called cold processed. And you do need a few extra ingredients when you do that. Some sugar, some ammonia, just some things. You know, do the research. And then the liquid soaps, I'm sure, is a different process. Haven't done liquid soap, but any kind of soap is going to work. Because once you've gone to the bathroom, you need to wash your hands. That should just make sense to you. So start storing soap. And then I have this cloth alternative to toilet paper. This is going to last a long time. The leaves will be there too. You know, they'll be out there as long as you have trees in your area or low shrubby plants. The soap is also, you know, vital for using something of cloth. And people did use cloth in the good old days. I read an account that said they would have some sort of can outside the outhouse. You'd use your cloth thing, you'd put it in the can so it could soak for a day, you would wash it, and you kind of rotated that. And all of that will work very well, and you'll be okay with it if you're careful. You cannot spill that dirty water. You don't want it on your hands and then go and do anything else involving food or in your mouth. You definitely have to wash your hands after handling that kind of water. So that's where we get back to the soap. You will need soap to get this very, very clean. Another old-timey idea, alternative was using vinegar. Vinegar has a high acidity, I think it's 5%, but I have not tried that. I have not researched if vinegar would be strong enough to actually clean material that has human waste on it. You could boil it for sure, but I wouldn't just boil it, I would also use soap. So there is kind of your next step to the disaster. If you're going to use the buckets and have the bags, you will definitely need to put those bags somewhere. My recommendation is you make a human manure compost bin in your backyard away from any water source. And then when you dump it into your bin, you need to cover it with some sort of carbon material like mulch, leaves, ash, because what will happen is the waste plus your carbon material that you're covering it with will start to break down. The nitrogen in your waste will break down whatever material you put on it, and the end result will be dirt. And you need that composting bin, my opinion, whether you use those plastic bags or not. And the reason I say don't use the plastic bags is because I don't know how well they're going to compost, and really what you're doing is you're creating more waste for yourself and more chances for that to spill all over you than if you just take the bucket itself out there and dump it into the bin. And Pastor and I have been using these bins for 6 years. We've never had an incident where it became a health problem. We have more than one. And the oldest one is at the end, and we make a new one as they get full, and then we empty the one in the back and we put it in our orchard and places like that. So I'm talking the voice of experience here. This will work. And if you are in suburbia, and every suburban house has one of these in their backyard where it's not going to get into anybody else's food source or water source, then that, to me, is a way better idea of getting rid of your waste when you're in a crowded situation than if you have all these black bags of whatever. I mean, you could dig a huge hole in your backyard and try to bury them all, but that's a whole lot of work, and this composting bin will work way better than that with less effort on your part. So I hope this is kind of let you see what comes next after the toilet paper runs out and how you want to deal with that in I won't say clean, but a sanitary, effective way. All right. Bless you. Shalom.